Okay, this is our Year 9 notes. We're in Unit 1 and we're just looking at a few different wee topics here. First of all, understand the kind of fractionless quantities, reasonably straightforward. So the first one says, write the first quantity as a fraction of the second. So 10 minutes over 60 is just then 10 over 60, which cancels then down to a sixth. £3 and £7, not much really to do there, so it's just going to be 3 over 7. If I have £2.40 and I spend £1.24, what fraction of my money do I have left? So I first of all did £2.40 take away 124, so I changed into pence. 240 take away 124 gives me 116, and then you do 116 over 240. Both of those cancelled by 4, so if I cancel down I get 29 over 60. On to the next page then. So it says write these in as fractions in their lowest terms and also then as decimals. So 55% is 55 over 100. Both divide by 5 to give me 11 over 20. And then of course 0.55. Part 2 I got a bit mixed up with because I think there's a mistake in it. I think we want 66 and 2/3 there. So 66 and 2/3, and then that should be a 66 and 2/3 there. So that's 66 and 2/3% is obviously 66 and 2/3 over 100. We can't have a fraction within a fraction, so I've times top and bottom of that by 3. If you times the bottom by 3, you obviously get 300. If you times the top by 3, you actually get, you times 66 times 3, I think you get 198, and then 3 2/3 gives you the 2 then to make it 200. Some people should recognize this number anyway. That cancels then down to 2/3. In terms of a decimal, it's a recurring decimal that goes on forever, and it's actually then going to be 0.6 repeating. 12.5% is a similar one, so that's going to be 12.5 over 100. If we times top and bottom of this by 2, you get 25 over 200, and then if you divide by 25, you would get an eighth. So 12.5%, if you didn't know, it's just half of 25% if you think about it, which is a quarter, so that's going to be our eighth. As a decimal then it's going to be 0.125. Express these fractions as decimals, as percentages and decimals. So 3/4 is of course going to be 75%, and then as a decimal is 0.75. 3/8 is a bit of a tough one, but let's just actually work it out and kind of show that we can work it out, just in case you were struggling a bit. So it's 8 divided by 3. So obviously 8 doesn't go into 3, but 8 goes into 33 times, and there are 6 left over. It then goes in 7 times and 4 left over, and then it goes in 5 times. So as a percentage, it's going to be equal to 37.5%, and as a decimal it's 0.375. 9/20, we could do 20 divided into 9, but this one it's easier if you change it into 100ths, I think is our trick then for this one. So we times top and bottom by 5, we would get 45 over 100. That means as a percentage we of course then have 45%, and then as a decimal it's 0.45. 11 over 4 then, we could write that as a couple of different things. That goes in 2 times and 3 left over, so it's 2 3/4. As a percentage that's 275%, and as, what do they want, a decimal, it would be 2.7. No, that's not that is a decimal. I'm losing my mind here, apologies. So it's 2.75 then as a decimal. Express these decimals as percentages and fractions. So then this one, nice and straightforward. As a percentage is of course 65%. As a fraction it's 65 over 100. Divide top and bottom by 5, because it does divide by 5, and that would give us then 13 over 20. 0.27 is 27%, and of course then that's just going to be 27 over 100. There's no common factors in 27 over 100, and so we end up with that. 0.2475 So as a percentage then that's 24.75%, and then as a decimal, no, as a fraction, it's going to be 2475 all over 10,000. So let's see what that gives us. I'll do a wee bit of cheating here. 2475 divided by. That cancels down then to 99 over 400. If you put it into your calculator, and that should be us there. Expressing one quantity as a fraction of the other then will be our last wee bit. So 4 and 16. So express the first quantity as a percentage of the second, first as a mixed number and then as a decimal. Correct the three significant figures. So as a percentage, then it's 4 over 16, which is of course 0.25. As a percentage, then it's going to be 25%. We don't need to go top heavy or anything like that. 50 over 175 isn't very nice. Dividing by top and bottom by 25, we will get 2/7. And as a percentage, what do they want? Three significant figures. 286. So it's 28.6%. So if you want, you could go 2 divided by 7 and you get 0.286, and then as a percentage, in terms of that, 90 over 60 is obviously then 3 over 2, or if you want 1.5, then as a percentage that's going to be 150%. 33 and 66. So 33 over 66 is going to be a half. That's a nice straightforward one. That's going to be 50%. 25 centimeters and 2 meters. We just need to be careful obviously with this one. So that's going to be 25 over 200. That cancels down to 1/8, and as a percentage, it's going to be 12.5%. Lastly then, 300 grams and 2.5 kilograms. That's going to be 300 all over 2,500 once we change to the same unit. We can cancel 2 zeros there, so we get 3 over 25. That's a nice number to go into 100, so it's going to be 12 over 100, which of course then gives us 12%. I think I'm reading this wrong, but it says first, express the first quantity as a percentage of the second, first as a mixed number, first quantity is percentage of the second, first as a mixed number, and then as a decimal, correct the three significant figures. I'm not sure whether they want a decimal or not, but just to read through what this would be, it'll be 0.25, 0.286, 1.5, 0.5, 0.125, and then 0.12.